Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in Los Angeles, California. Today on Critter Chat, we're going to talk about a very unique animal, one that has baffled scientists for many years, as they didn't really know what else it was related to. Kind of looks like a cat, but it doesn't really act like a cat. It certainly doesn't move like a cat, and there's a couple of things about it that don't look like a cat. Today we're going to talk about fossas, sometimes pronounced Fossa or sometimes pronounced Foosh. Different pronunciations from different people all over the world. This animal is unique to one place. It only lives on the island of Madagascar. When that happens, that's called endemic. That's the word scientists use to describe an animal that only lives in one location, endemic. So the fossa, like many animals, is endemic to Madagascar. Things like lemurs also only live on Madagascar. Madagascar is a huge island off the southeast coast of Africa. And it has a lot of biodiversity. That means a lot of different species live there that don't live anywhere else. And the fossa is one of those types of animals. So scientists think they've figured out what it is, and they think its closest relatives, aside from other predators that also live on Madagascar that are a bit smaller, they think that it's most closely related to a mongoose, something kind of like a meerkat, if you might be familiar with those. But even then, it's still very different from a mongoose. It does have a long, slender body, kind of like a mongoose, but it also has a really long tail, and it doesn't always stay on the ground. They're very, very good at climbing. In fact, they spend about half of their time up in the trees, or they're arboreal or tree dwelling. And that's because that's where a lot of their food is. They are kind of a reddish to brown coloring, sometimes a little golden color. And they have retractable claws like a cat, but they actually kind of can move a bunch of ways. They can jump really well. They're excellent climbers. When they're coming down from a tree, they can climb down face first, which is pretty rare. Not a lot of animals can do that. I have talked about two that can, the clouded leopards and the binturons. Like the fossa, those animals can also rotate their ankles in their back feet to help give them support as they're climbing down a tree. So a fossa spends about half of its time on the ground and half of its time up in the trees. It will eat anything from the size of a mouse up to the size of a big lemur, which is almost the same size as the fossa itself. In fact, it's the only carnivore on the island of Madagascar that's big enough to go after the biggest species of lemurs. They'll also eat birds and fish and anything else they can come across. They can live kind of a nocturnal life, active at nighttime, or a diurnal life, active during the day. Or, of course, they'll also vary that and live a crepuscular life, where they're really active in the morning, take a nap during the middle of the day when it's hot, and then active again at the end of the day. Scientists who have studied fossas feel that they are most active based on what else is around them. Their main food sources are typically daytime active, so it makes sense to be active when your food is active if you're trying to hunt for it. But also, if there's a lot of people in the area, they tend to be more nocturnal. They don't really like being around people, and people certainly don't like them being around. Many parts of the island of Madagascar where people live, they will often try to hunt or get rid of the fossa because they feel that it can be kind of a bad omen. There's a lot of superstitions about it. And it will occasionally go after farm animals, especially things like chickens. Fossas are typically solitary. They're not seen with other fossas very often unless they are young animals with their mom, or if it's during their breeding season, which is typically in what we would call fall from September to December. They are an ambush predator, so they like to kind of hide and wait for their food to come nearer to them, and then they bolt out with an incredible amount of speed and skill as they climb and attack their food. They can hunt things that are slightly bigger than them, although they're a good-sized animal for this island. There's not a lot of huge animals there, or at least not anymore. There used to be, but people kind of wiped them out hundreds and thousands of years ago. Fossa's gestation or pregnancy is about 3 months in length. They generally give birth to 2 babies, but it can be as many as 6. The babies are born kind of like a puppy or a kitten. They're pretty helpless. They're blind. They don't have any teeth. So they stay in a den for a pretty long time, up to about 4 months, maybe 5 if it's a lot of babies and if it's the mom's kind of struggling to take care of them. And then when they're born, they're tiny. They're only about 3 ounces in weight, so it takes them a while to get big enough to move around. Once they start coming out of the den at about 4 or 5 months old, they stay with their mom for about 8 more months. So they're with her about a year before they start to disperse and go off on their own. Sometimes the siblings will stay together for a little bit after that. As an adult, they are between 27 and 32 inches in length, and that does not include their tail, which is an additional 26 to 28 inches. They'll weigh anywhere between 12 to up to about 25 pounds, with males being typically a little bit bigger than the females. Fossas in the forest in Madagascar communicate mostly through their sense of smell. They have really important scent glands. If you saw the video I posted earlier today on Facebook or Instagram, that is a fossa in a zoo. She is rubbing on the log in front of her, trying to get her scent onto that log, as that is a way that they would communicate with other fossas in the forest. They also do make a variety of different sounds, and I'll post some clips that showcase those a little bit later on the Facebook page. So they have these scent glands on their chest and also at the base of their tail, and that kind of helps them find each other in the big forested areas. Fossas are unfortunately vulnerable to extinction. They think that that's going to get worse before it gets better, and there's a lot of reasons for that. 1, they live only in one place, Madagascar. 2, there's 28 million people that live on that island as well. So there's a big number of people, and those people are in general fairly poor and have struggled to kind of make a living for themselves. Many of them are trying to just raise food or grow food to feed their families, and that often means that they cut down the forest. Madagascar is covered in either kind of rainforest on one side of the island and a drier forest on the other side, with a bit of a desert in the middle or in the south, and a high rocky plateau kind of in the middle. And they clear a lot of that forest land so that they can raise cows or goats or sheep and grow crops. So that is the big problem, is that these animals all live in forest, and when they cut down the forest and make it into a grassland area or a farming area, there's not a lot of space for wild animals to live. It's estimated that only about 10% of the forest in Madagascar are still intact and providing good habitat to their wild animals. Most of those forests are in protected places, which is some good news, but they've also had some government issues over the past few years, and during that time frame, a lot of their laws have kind of been forgotten and certainly not enforced at all, and that has led to a lot of poaching and even things like cutting down protected forests, mining in those forests, selling off protected trees from protected forests to other places. Tropical forests have really nice wood that grows there, and that's a big part of the problem for Madagascar. They're selling off their natural resources to other countries who are willing to pay good money for it. With fossas, they are also sometimes hunted by local people for food. People will eat them, and they will also kill them for their claws, for their skulls, for their teeth. Sometimes they'll use parts of their bodies for traditional medicines, which have shown that there are no actual medicinal purposes for that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there is sometimes human conflict. When a fossa is killing someone's chickens, they will try to find the fossa and kill it, and if they see a fossa, they will kill any fossa they see thereafter. There's also a lot of myths and legends about fossa, and people are pretty scared of them, so they will try to kind of get rid of them whenever they can see them. More research is also needed about these animals. There's a lot we still don't know, particularly how many are out there and where they live and how they use their environment entirely. We know some things, we don't know a lot of others. My experience with fossas is they're an animal I didn't really know much about when I was a kid, when I was growing up. I first saw them in the San Diego Zoo in 2006. I was pretty excited because it's an animal I had never heard of until I suddenly saw some there at the zoo, and that was a little family group, so it was a mom with some babies. I was super excited to see them and then learn more about them. After that, when I moved to Los Angeles and began my training to become a zookeeper, there were some fossas who lived at the LA Zoo who I started to work with a little bit during my training time. And then after I was a zookeeper for quite a while, I got cross-trained into other sections, and one of those sections included the fossa who I showed on the video earlier today. Her name is Brittany. She's a crazy old lady. She's a lot of fun and a lot of interesting behaviors for sure. One of the days that I was her keeper, she had killed a skunk on exhibit, which was not very fun for me to clean up because she didn't eat all of it, but she did eat a big portion of it. So that was a little gross and not exciting for me to clean up, but it's part of the job when you're the zookeeper. You clean up after the animals in all regards. What else? Despite the fact that they are not very big animals, they are absolutely an animal we did not go in with at the Los Angeles Zoo because she does have very sharp claws and very sharp teeth, even though she's also very old. She was in her late teens when I was working with her. I believe she's still there, and I believe she's in her 20s now, which is about as long as they can live. She was still in pretty good health and still going along last I had heard. Last year, I also visited the San Diego Zoo again, and they have a new exhibit called Africa Rocks, in which they highlight animals from throughout the continent of Africa, including the island of Madagascar. They have a lot of lemurs in that area, and they have a really cool exhibit for fossa. And they had had babies born earlier that year to where, or maybe about a year ago in 2019. So when I was there, there were babies that were active and running around, and they had just been separated from their mom. I believe I have videos of them climbing and jumping, which was really amazing to see, and I'll try to find those and post those up on the Facebook page later today. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shared with you today about the fossa, and I hope that you've learned a little bit and had some fun. Until next time, be happy, be healthy, have fun, and as always, feel free to like, share, follow, and subscribe to any of my content across the platforms of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and my website at jeremythezoonerd.com. See you later. Bye.